Hey, hi, I'm Carter, and I'm here with Irene. Say hi.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about something super fun, dying babies. That's actually not fun. And I'll try to keep my jokes to a minimum because this is a serious topic and I want to handle it respectfully. But if you're listening, you know me, and I'm not good at that. But anyways, just a straight warning though, we do talk about like medical issues and babies dying. So like if you're sensitive to that, please just listen with caution. Hi, Irene. How are you today?
Yeah, well, I was great.
Oh, okay, cool. So we're going to be talking about a outbreak. I don't know if outbreak's the right word, but a numerous amount of cases of anencephaly, which is a neural tube disorder which causes incomplete development of the brain, skull, and scalp in the womb. And in Washington State, these cases between like a 6 to 7 year period were like 5 to 6 times higher than most of the nation. So, yeah. Oh my God. Okay. And for most children, this case is fatal. I mean, I rarely found a case where a baby survived. Most die either inside the womb or within a couple minutes or hours of being born. And after hearing that, we have literally one of the highest rates in the country. How do you feel about that?
I'm sorry, can you actually like read the definition of what this
I just did.
I don't remember. Please repeat it.
Okay. So anencephaly is the incomplete development of the brain, skull, and scalp in the womb. And it's a neural tube disorder not connected with, but it would be in the same category as spina bifida or something like that.
Okay. So basically they're born with like half a brain.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have enough brain typically to function or survive. And in Washington State, the rate is 5 times higher than the national average, which means, when I read the numbers, it's going to sound small, but it's actually not. So we have in Washington about 9 cases out of 10,000 births. And in most of the United States, it's 1 per 10,000. And granted, those numbers are still small, but it's also incredibly higher than everywhere else. It was first noticed in 2010 by a nurse named, a nurse named Susan Barron at Prosser Memorial Hospital. She saw 2 cases within 6 months, and that's when she noticed there was first a problem. And when I say Washington State, I don't mean all of it, unfortunately. These cases have been condensed to 3 counties, Yakima, Benton, and Franklin. And yeah, how do you feel about being in a county with one of the highest neural tube defect rates?
That honestly it just feels really weird to think that could happen in like where I live, because like when you hear about these things on the news, it feels like they're always in different parts of the world where obviously there's been a reason for that, like when there was like Chernobyl and stuff, all that stuff happening, that made sense to me, but like I don't know what could be causing these things.
Yeah, and I will tell you. Okay, but we'll get to that in a moment.
All right.
So to directly quote Susan Barron, and now I was sitting at Prosser with 30 deliveries a month, and there was 2 new cases in a 6-month period. Then I was talking to another doctor about it, and she said she had a 3rd one coming. My teeth dropped. I was like, oh my God. So to paraphrase, it was jaw-dropping that she had 3 cases in a 6-month period, because that's practically unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, like, because it sounds like this thing is pretty rare, like 1 in every 10,000.
Yeah, it's insane. And so anencephaly is typically caused by a lack of folic acid, which is a vitamin B. And there's typically 1 to 2 cases per 10,000 in the US, which I said before. But this number is pretty consistent around the world as well. Obviously, you might see it in more 3rd world country areas where vitamins aren't easily come by and people lack it more often. But to see it in a 1st world country in an area that's
Which is what I was trying to get
that
at that earlier, but I don't know if I worded it right or not. But
yeah. So these instances were brought to the attention of officials pretty quickly after they started, but investigations only started in 2014, according to the Seattle Times. So officials waited 4 years to start an investigation. Not how does that make you feel? But like, I feel like that's odd. And I'm not trying to say, like, there's a conspiracy, which I've been told not to say, but I just feel like that's quite negligent at the officials.
Yeah, like obviously if there's a problem that's serious, something needs to be done to make it right or fix it within like a reasonable amount of time. And 4 years just seems like they're putting it off for other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and in one of the articles I read, they talked about how it wasn't like a top priority, or like they were quite undermanned, so they weren't able to do research. But you'd think if in the 6-year period that this was most prominent, there were 45 cases of anencephaly, which is
Jesus.
crazy, you know? And they only did it in the last, like, 2 years. They were doing research. And I just, it blows my mind that people weren't more concerned about this quicker. And by the time they ended their research, they were like, oh, there's no sole reason. What? Yeah.
Yeah, no, like I understand what you're saying. Like the confusion of it is they're doing all this research to figure out why our like this birth defect rate is so much higher than everywhere else. Like, did you say 65 in a year? 65 cases or 40?
No, in the 6 years that this was most prominent, there were 45 cases. I think there was 18 in Yakima, 18 in Franklin, and then the rest were in Benton, but I could have that backwards, but that was basically how it was spread out.
Yeah, but like that's a lot for that kind of thing to be happening. And so it feels like there should be a reason for this, but then for them to come out and just say there's no clear reason, I don't get it, because it can't just be just like these women just
like
their
they
bodies
lost their child.
Yeah.
And they have no answers to. And from what I was reading, most women had taken prenatal like vitamins, which they believed contained folic acids. So they can't. I just feel like there's no solid blame they can put on. Oh, you had a lack of vitamins in your diet, when in reality they most likely didn't, because they all live fairly healthy. Not all, but majority live fairly healthy lifestyles. And in an interview with Sally Garcia from Prosser, who had a daughter who died of anencephaly in 2012, she was told she would be questioned about how, like, her lifestyle, like what she drank and like well water versus tap or whatever, and like the food she ate, you know, because obviously those are things you'd want to check. But she says she was never interviewed, actually. She was never spoken to by any officials, and I've heard that claim from several women.
Really? So they were like, we're going to interview you to help you figure out what happened. I'm talking about like what vitamins you were taking and
like
everything.
they obviously want to check if, like, okay, so all of these women were on well water, and now, like, this is not true, but like, okay, so that makes sense. Maybe there's something wrong with the well water, and that's, or none of these women were like having healthy diets. But I just feel like to have such a concentrated amount in such a small area, it's so confusing to me. But in an article with NBC News, they said, according to Mandy Satre, I probably pronounced that wrong, but she's the CDC's Epidemic Intelligence Service Officer, who's based in Washington State. She said there was no effort to reach out to individual families. There were very few of us who could spend time doing this investigation. I'm not sure the women knew that they were part of the cluster. There's a lot of silent spaces, but it's just like, I feel like there was just so much that could have been done about this that wasn't done.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like they don't care. And I don't know if I can say this, because I feel like I'm just like a slander, but I'm not trying to slander, but it just seems weird.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like, you'd think the things that have to do with like children and mothers losing their children, like that's something you need to take action on, because clearly it's a serious issue, not only to them, but like 45 in those 6 years in 3 counties of Washington State. Yeah.
3 counties had one of the highest rates in the country.
That's ridiculous. Like, I feel like there needs to be more action taken. They need to like create a plan. I don't get it. It honestly confuses me, because I don't understand how you could just overlook something like that.
Yeah. And I know everyone who did work on it worked hard, I would hope. And that people care, but it just seems so like pushed under the rug, kind of. Like, I couldn't find a lot of like I found articles, especially from, Yakima Herald, but like major news sources, like there's maybe a couple from NBC, but then like it just kind of fell flat, which I don't know. But according to investigators, they looked at where the women worked, diseases they had, genetic stuff, whether they smoked or drank, medications they took, where they lived, where they got their water from. And then they looked at also the race of the women, and whether it was more concentrated in for Hispanic women or white women, and among that. And they said it was inconclusive. There wasn't a sole reason. And when I was talking with Mr. Cabbage about it, he said that types of flour can mess with your folic acid levels, and that I'm paraphrasing him. I could completely be wrong. Maybe he's wrong, Mr. Cabbage. If you're listening, I'm questioning you.
You've made a mistake, and we're coming for you.
I'm leaving this in. He said that corn flour can often cause lower rates of folic acid, and that Hispanic women typically use that compared to white flour. But I feel like if that was the sole reason, I would have found more information about that. And also,
yeah, because these are scientists researching this, right?
Yeah, you'd think if it was solely 75% of the women who had this happen to them were Hispanic, and based on their diets, this was what happened.
Yeah, and
therefore, that would be conclusive research, but they said they found nothing to explain it.
And these are professional scientists being paid to come up with research and reasons for this, and our high school teacher is coming up with reasons.
Okay, we can't throw them in the bus that bad.
No, but what I'm saying is if that was the reason, they would have
simpler to find.
Yeah, they would
simpler to find.
They would have figured it out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And if it was also based on granted the percentages are higher in Hispanic women, I have read that, but when I looked at the numbers from this period, it wasn't that was the overwhelming majority, or if it was, because they would have said that. And when I was looking, I was is Washington State one of the highest populated Hispanic states? And granted, it is one of them, but if it was truly just based on being Hispanic, but if it was a majority of Hispanic women, you would see cases in Texas and Arizona, in California, where they have the highest Hispanic population.
Yeah.
Then you don't. Not that I found. And if you did, granted, if it's California, if they had an epidemic of anisophilia in California, the whole world would know. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That's what this, I want to say this case, it's a mystery. But it is a mystery. I want to know what's going on. And granted, I feel like I keep saying, and granted, but I'm sorry, we can count how many times I said it later. Take a shot whenever I say granted. I don't know. I just want answers. I know it happened. I think some of it trickled off towards 2017, but it still happens. And I don't know. I just feel like it stopped happening, and now they just ignore that it happened altogether.
Hanford nuclear site.
I wish I could talk about Hanford nuclear site so badly, but I cannot. So I did read that they did investigate Hanford, and they found that it wasn't a cause. But just to trickle in there with no means to slander the company. Is Hanford a company?
I think it's a government.
I know, but I don't.
Facility.
No need to slander the government because all the things I've said in this podcast. But the case it's fairly simple. Washington State, for a period of 7 years, had a 9 times higher rate of anisophilia in the United States, and there was no conclusive reason why. It just it happened and then it was over. But it just adds the fear that I don't know, should women be scared to have babies now that because there's a concern that they could get sick?
Yeah.
I don't know if I wrote it down, but I remember reading a theory. I feel like I can't say theory because it's not scientifically backed up. But no. So Yakima, Benton, and Franklin have lots of agriculture, which means there's lots of pesticides. And I don't know if pesticides could be a leading cause to why this might have happened. But if you gotta look at specific things to this area.
Yeah, because obviously it's something in the area that's causing it. Because if it was things, like what you said, if it was things with high Hispanic populations,
you would see it across the United States.
Yeah.
but you don't.
Interesting.
I think I can't say it, but it rhymes with Manford.
Landford.
Yeah. I don't know. This whole thing stresses me out. Like a lot.
Yeah. I mean, there are things obviously you can do as a person to prevent yourself from like having this kind of thing happen to you and your child.
Like, obviously, like, to any people listening, because, like, I don't think anyone will.
Mr. Cabbage, we're
If
talking to you.
you are pregnant or, like, want to grow up to have kids or, like, trying, I don't know. Please, like, take care of yourself. Like, make sure you get the vitamins and minerals you need. Don't drink or vape, because I know that's a thing now.
Yeah, please look into healthy diets.
Yeah, like, I think, and I can't say all these women had bad dads, because I know they didn't. Like, it ranges from, like, you know, like, suburban moms to, like, low-income families, and, like, that's just, I don't know. And it was also women who had, like, had not several kids, but, like, you know, like, it's her fourth child, and I don't know, I feel like, and, like, I think if it was a solely genetic reason, like, I don't know if they could test for that, but the odds of just 45 random women in Washington State having this weird genetic thing that causes their babies to be born without a like brain, like you can't see me freaking out, but like it just doesn't, nothing lines up and nothing makes sense. Irene, do you want to have kids one day?
I do want to have kids one day.
Do you plan on taking folic acid supplements now that you know that your
I
baby
do
could be
now,
born
yeah.
without a brain?
Yeah.
It's so stressful.
It's kind of crazy because you think like those things don't happen a lot. And then when you hear about this, it happening so many times in such a close proximity to you
and
personally.
It's like I want to say a wide demographic, but it wasn't just, it didn't affect a certain group of people. It was lots of different people who were affected.
I don't know. It's scary to think like one day if it's from something that was in this area, one day I'll grow up
like
and want to have a
saying
child.
It won't happen again, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like what's going to happen to me that time, you know? Is it going to affect me?
Yeah, that's I think the main issue. I couldn't find anything about it happen like in the past, but yeah, nothing's saying it won't happen again.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
And on that
on that note,
note,
have a great day. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Diwali.
Happy holidays. Or wait, no, some people don't celebrate holidays. Happy winter.
Happy winter solstice, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, winter solstice.
I think that was on Monday.
Was it?
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you celebrate that, yay.
Yeah, if you celebrate anything, happy celebration. If you don't celebrate anything, have fun playing in the snow if we get any.